Hello, good day, grade 10 students of the Laboratory High School of University of Antique Tario Lim Memorial Campus. This is our first session on your selected topics as a subject this school year, and this is on basic of the phonetics, and we will be talking about today human speech mechanism to start and to understand phonetics, especially before going to international phonetics. And this is your instructor, Professor Roy A. Bandoa, to discuss to you today human speech mechanism. This would explain to us why we are speaking. Remember, I have given you an assignment to answer the question, the speech process that happens in ourselves. And another question is there a specific speech organ in our body? So that is the assignment, and those questions that I have posted in your class in the last week would be answered in today's session of our virtual class. Okay? So be ready, and we will be exploring ourselves to the basic speech mechanism of the human being. There is one which we considered it as a concept which we could anchor the answer of the question, is there a specific speech organ in our body? And it is said by some authorities of phonetics, some authorities of linguistics, that speech is an overlaid function of the human body. What do we mean by overlaid? Overlaid means extra function of the parts of the body that is considered that we use to produce sounds, to produce speech. Okay? So we will be discussing how do we produce the speech process in ourselves. Okay? So in order to understand the international phonetics, some basic information will be discussed by us this afternoon, especially on the areas of anatomy and physiology. This is for us to understand the correlates of speech mechanism, or of the structure of speaking. Okay, its relationship, its complicated relationship of the structure, function, and the production of the speech sounds, or of the speech phonemes. Okay, and of course we have to realize later on why we are speaking, diba? So the relationship form interdependent process necessary for the production of our speech, and this includes this process of speech production. As what I have said, it's interdependent. So it will start with respiration, of course. We breathe, that's why we speak. Then as we breathe, sound is produced. Okay, sound is produced in our voice box. And this sounds produced in our voice box is amplified, modified by our resonators. And of course, this amplified sound by our resonators are now specifically articulated in specific speech sounds, maybe a vowel phoneme or a consonant phoneme. Okay, so let's start discussing and understanding how the speech production process happens in our self. So there are 4 stages in the production of speech. First, of course, the breathing stage, the phonation stage, the resonation stage, and the articulation stage. So let's start first with the breathing stage. Breathing, which is primarily concerned with the maintaining of life. Of course, if we are not breathing, it means we are dead. Okay? This breathing is secondary only to speaking. Is secondarily a force assisting in vocalization, because it consists 2 phases. the inhalation and the exhalation. Okay? We are using this. If we are not breathing, we could not speak, generally. And what are involved in breathing? It is said, the reservoir of air in our body is our lungs. As you inhale, air fill in our lungs comfortably in preparation for speaking. Okay? So, this is the main part of our body which really contributes to the inhalation and exhalation as a respiration process. Of course, under which our lungs is a large sheets of muscle separating the chest cavity from our abdomen. It forms the floor of the chest and the roof of the abdomen because this gives pressure to the air stream that comes in and out in our body. And we call this as the diaphragm. The diaphragm, which is a parachute-like shape in the lower part of our body, that covers our abdomen. Okay. So to improve breathing and respiration, I am suggesting this breathing exercise. Sit up straight, then exhale, inhale, and at the same time relax the belly muscle. Feel as though the belly is filling with air. After filling the belly, keep inhaling. Fill up the middle of your chest. Feel your chest and rib cage expand. As soon as you feel that they are expanding, hold the breath for a moment and then begin to exhale slowly as possible. As the air is slowly let out, relax your chest and rib cage. Begin to pull your belly into a force out of the remaining breath. Close your eyes and concentrate in your breathing. Relax your face and mind. Let everything go. Practice this about 5 minutes, and this will develop the respiratory functions in ourselves, and that would improve our breathing. Okay. Next stage is phonation stage. What is phonation stage? Phonation takes place when voice is produced in speaking. There is an actual production now of the sound as the expiratory air stream from our lungs goes up through the trachea and it will pass the windpipe to the larynx. The trachea, or we mean the windpipe, will have to pass by the larynx, and this larynx is called our voice box that now will produce sound. Okay? Meaning, phonation is the modification of the airstream from the lungs by the movement through of the structure in the laryngeal area, or an airway to the lung. The airway means the airway to the lungs. In other words, phonation can be stated as the production of sound at the level of the larynx. Here, in our larynx, or we call it the voice box. So, the principal organ for phonation is the larynx. It is found at the top of the trachea, or our windpipe. And of course, the protuberance is known as the covering here. The protuberance is known for men commonly as the Adam's apple. Inside the larynx or the voice box is called, we have there the vocal cords, or scientifically in anatomy we call it as the voice folds. Okay, so this is the principal organ of the phonation, because this the vibration produces sounds. Of course, if you look at the anatomy of the larynx, we could visibly identify and understand how the air passes through back and forth the larynx sides, and this larynx will be producing sounds. As this laryngoscopic view, we could really identify the vocal folds there, no? Actually, that would vibrate if the air comes back and forth as we breathe. Okay. So, vocal cords is there inside. If you see, they are the bundle of muscles and cartilage, which opens and closes in various degrees as the air passes through back and forth, and that produces vibration, and that is now the sound. That's why it produced primarily the sound or the phonation process. That trachea is the windpipe. It is known as the windpipe also as the passage of the air going up that would connect the larynx so that it will cause the larynx to sound as it vibrates. Okay? We call this as the trachea. So, to increase the phonation exercise and to improve our production of sounds, you do this. Okay, you do this. This is a suggested phonation exercise. Think about blowing out birthday candles. It's your birthday. Begin to blow and then turn the breath into an ooh sound on a comfortable pitch. Feel the tone begin in the breathing muscle and then repeat. Next stage is the resonation stage. In the resonation stage, the produced sound is amplified. The voice produced in the phonation in our larynx is weak. It becomes strong and rich only when amplified and modified by our resonators, by our human resonators. This is what we call the resonation process of the voice. It's voice amplification and modifications. Meaning to say, our resonators are our amplifiers. Diba? Our resonators are our amplifiers. The process of modifying the sound from the larynx is accomplished by the airstream moving through the nasal cavity, the oral cavity, and the pharyngeal cavity, parts of the throat that connects the inner nose and the throat. The changing shape created by the muscles movement, varying tensions in the membranes in the cavities produces a various formants. Formants are the overtone or resonances of the vocal tract. In other words, formants are described as the spectral peaks of the sound spectrum of our voice. Each phoneme or each sounds has a distinct pattern of formats. Okay? Do you understand formats? That's why what really composed our resonators in the resonation process. First is our pharynx. Pharynx is divided into three: the nasal pharynx, the oral pharynx, and the laryngeal pharynx. This is the common passageway of the air and food. Okay, that's why we have this epiglottis that would close our pharynx so that every time that we eat, so that it would not go through our larynx. Okay, it is located behind the nose and the mouth and includes the cavity at the back of the tongue. That's our pharynx. Our nose is part of our resonators. This consists the external and the internal portions. The nostrils on the opening of the nose, the external nose, the nasal cavity, that is the internal nose, directly behind the external nose through which the air passes on its way to the pharynx. And the new word to us, we say the septum. What is this septum? This is the part of the nose that divides the external and the internal nose into two separate passageways, just like this. This is a spectrum. Okay? If you look at it externally, okay, this is the tip of the nose, the root, the bridge, and you see the septum that will divide the two holes of our nose, which is called the nostril. And sometimes structure of our nose is defined well by our wings, by the wing or the alar, and the root or the bridge of our nose. This is the external part of our nose. Remember, nose is the number one component also of our resonation process as resonators. Next is our mouth. Our mouth is divided into the the vestibule and the oral cavity proper. When you say the vestibule, felt by placing the tongue tip outside the teeth, but inside the lips, meaning here. That is the vestibule. And the oral cavity is felt by the retracting tongue, closing the jaw, moving the tongue about, which is covered by the soft and the hard palate. Okay? Just like this. This is the oral cavity of our mouth, what is inside. Okay? So meaning to say, our resonators include this: the upper part of the larynx, the oral cavity of our mouth, the pharynx, and of course the nasal cavity. This is some tips for us to pronounce the letters according to its size. If it is big letter, it means you have to produce the loudest sounds based on the sizes of the letter. This would be a good resonation exercise for you. And of course, the last stage is the articulation stage, which now produce specific sounds of the phonemes of the language. Sound and phonemes are similar. Okay, it may be vowel phonemes or consonant phonemes. Articulation occurs when the tone produced in the larynx is changed into specific sound. This is the result of the movement of the articulators towards the position of articulation. Thus, articulation is the process of modifying airstream from the respiration or from the breathing by the various articulators. And what are our articulators? I will enumerate that afterwards. The structures of articulations are called articulators. The articulators are our lips, teeth, tongue, hard palate, soft palate, or we call it the velum, the glottis. These structures, with the exception of the glottis, compose the oral cavity. And we will have to take one by one of our articulators. First, the lips. It is highly flexible, can be moved into numerous positions essential to articulations. This really dictates the specific sounds that would be produced by those phonemes. It's either vowel or consonant phonemes. Specifically on consonant phonemes, because lips is used as part of the point of articulators. Our teeth, this is very important. This serves as the important surfaces of articulations, because other articulators would have to connect with this in the emphasis of producing the correct production of specific consonant or vowel phonemes. This is embedded in the alveolar ridge or the gum ridges of the oral cavity. And of course, the dome. The dome, or we call it the hard palate, the upper part of our mouth, the bony roof of our mouth, or we say the dome. It serves as an important surface against which the tongue makes contact. This is the example of our dome. And of course, the alveola. It's a small knob on the lower border of the soft palate, movable tip at the midline of the free border of the soft palate. We call it our alveola. And of course, our soft palate or the velum, which separates the nasal pharynx from the oral cavity. It is a flexible curtain attached along the rear border of the hard palate or of the dome. These are the parts of our articulators. And of course, one of the most important articulators is our tongue, as one of the point of articulations used. Okay, this is a flexible organ consisting of the muscles and glands and connective tissues. Okay, the apex or the tip of the tongue, the blade in the sides, where the position could be classified as front, center, back, or root, specifically when we are giving articulations for vowel phonemes. So, I forgot, I have not included the teeth there, which is very important. These are our specific articulators. Okay? So, Point of articulations are defined according to these articulators. Later on, we'll learn that individually or specifically if we will be now referring to consonant sounds or consonant phonemes, because we will be dealing with point of articulations and manner of articulations. Thus, to end up and to summarize, speech is an overlaid function. There are no organs whose primary function is to produce speech. It's just a secondary functions of those body organs. Our respiratory system, our digestive systems, the organs involved to it are used for our speech process, and that is their second function. It's not their primary function. That's why we say speech is an overlaid function. There is no such speech organ in our body. Clear? Okay? So, with our articulators at the end of production of the speech, parts of speech mechanism that would serve to produce different configurations which make up different sounds. So that would refer to our articulators, and we specifically learn later on our articulators based on the phonemes that we will be producing. See, human voice is amazing. It's like other animals, which we wonder why they produce sounds, how they produce sounds. And of course, back to us, we have to wonder also, why do we speak? Why do we produce sounds? Since human voice is amazing. That's why requirement for speech production, let us remember always the 4 human speech mechanism, from respiration to phonation to resonation up to articulation as the specific output of our sound, of our speech, I mean. Okay? So, did you understand now why do we speak? Why do we produce sound? Why do speech capabilities or ability human being have? I think that is the answer, because of the 4 speech mechanism that happens in our body. So, to end up, this would be our assessment. This would be our activity. I will be giving you a blank figure of the speech production from respiration to articulation. What will you do is to identify the parts of this figure so that we could really apply now the anatomical and physiological contribution of our body in the production of speech. Please answer this output number 1 and upload it in our class-in platform. Any question? If there are no question, therefore, we will be enjoying discovering why we have this ability. And maybe you could now answer why some people have different sounds productions. We have different voice. Why there are sopranos, why there are altos, tenors, and altos, tenor, sopranos, no? And bass, or bass, I mean, the level of the voice productions. It's something like the same with music, because that is on how do we produce sounds in ourselves. So, thank you very much for listening, grade 10 students, for our first topic in the selected topics in our basic phonetics, which is the basic speech or the human speech mechanism. Thank you very much for listening, and see you next virtual engagement of us, which will be talking about articulatory process, the International Phonetic Alphabet. Okay? See you round. This is Sir Roy Bandoha, your speech professor. Thank you, and bye-bye.